The morning sky over New York City changed forever when the shadows fell. Massive shapes blocked out the sun, casting darkness across the bustling streets below. People stopped walking, stopped talking, stopped breathing as they looked up at ships so large they seemed to stretch from one horizon to the other. Dr. Sarah Chen was in her laboratory at Columbia University when every electronic device on Earth went silent for exactly 30 seconds. Her quantum computer, her phone, even her digital watch stopped working. Then as suddenly as it began, everything came back online. But now there was a message on every screen in every language, spoken by voices that didn't sound quite human. People of Earth, you are now under the protection and authority of the Galactic Council. Do not be afraid. Submit peacefully and you will be treated fairly. Sarah ran to the window and saw them clearly now. The ships were beautiful and terrible, made of materials that seemed to shift between metal and crystal. They hung in the air without any visible means of support, defying every law of physics she understood. Smaller craft moved between them like insects around flowers, too fast for human eyes to follow properly. The world's military response came within hours. Fighter jets screamed across the sky. Missiles launched from ships and submarines, and every nuclear weapon on Earth was armed and ready. Sarah watched the news feeds with growing horror as humanity threw everything it had at the alien ships. Nothing worked. The missiles simply stopped in midair and fell harmlessly to the ground. The fighter jets found their engines shutting down, forcing pilots to eject as their aircraft became gliders. The nuclear weapons, humanity's ultimate deterrent, refused to fire. Every launch code failed. Every system showed green lights, but nothing happened. Then the aliens demonstrated their power. A beam of light, thin as a pencil but bright as the sun, reached down from the largest ship. It touched the International Space Station, and in less than a second, humanity's greatest achievement in space became expanding gas and metal fragments. The message was clear. They could have destroyed every city on Earth just as easily. Within 6 hours, every world leader was gathered in an emergency session at the United Nations. Sarah watched the live broadcast as a figure materialized in the assembly hall. It was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal that caught and reflected light in impossible ways. Its voice echoed strangely, as if coming from everywhere at once. I am Ambassador Vexhai of the Zephyrian Collective, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into galactic civilization. You will comply with the following terms. The terms were simple and devastating. Earth would provide 60% of its natural resources annually. Humanity would accept permanent status as a non-voting member of the Council. All military weapons would be surrendered. Resistance would result in the complete sterilization of the planet. You have 24 hours to decide, the crystal being said. Choose wisely. The debate that followed was painful to watch. Some leaders wanted to fight, others begged for mercy. The President of the United States asked what would happen if they refused. Your species will be classified as hostile and eliminated. Vexhai replied with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. This decision has been made 12 times in galactic history. Each time the primitive species chose extinction over submission. We hope you will be wiser. Sarah turned off the broadcast and sat in her dark laboratory thinking. Around her, equations and theories covered every whiteboard, representing years of work on quantum mechanics and dimensional physics. She had been trying to prove that faster-than-light travel was possible, that humanity might one day reach the stars. Now the stars had come to them and they brought chains. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Marcus Webb from the Pentagon's Advanced Research Division. Sarah, we need to talk. Not on the phone. Can you meet me tonight? Where? The old subway tunnel under 42nd Street. The one that's been sealed since the renovation. Midnight. Sarah almost laughed. Marcus, they probably have technology that can hear us thinking. What good will hiding underground do? Maybe none. But we have to try something. That night, Sarah climbed down through a maintenance entrance into the abandoned tunnel. Her flashlight revealed a dozen familiar faces. Scientists, military officers, engineers, and computer experts she had worked with over the years. Marcus was there, along with Colonel Rodriguez from the Air Force, Dr. Patel from MIT, and others she recognized from conferences and research papers. They're treating us like animals, Marcus said without introduction. Like we're too stupid to be dangerous. Maybe that's our advantage. What advantage? Colonel Rodriguez asked bitterly. They shut down our entire nuclear arsenal like it was a toy. They destroyed the space station with a flashlight. What could we possibly do against technology like that? Sarah spoke up. We could learn from it. She pulled out her tablet, which showed recordings she had made of the alien ships. Look at these energy signatures. I've been analyzing them for hours. Their technology operates on quantum principles we've theorized but never achieved. But the underlying physics should be the same. Dr. Patel leaned forward. You think we could reverse engineer their systems? Maybe if we could get close enough to study them properly. Sarah swiped to another image. But there's something else. Did anyone notice how they responded to our attacks? Their defenses activated automatically without any delay. That suggests computer-controlled systems, not manual responses. So? Rodriguez asked. So computers can be fooled, hacked, or overloaded. Even alien computers. Sarah looked around the group. They're not gods. They're just people with better technology. And better technology can be stolen, copied, or turned against itself. Marcus nodded slowly. What are you proposing? We accept their terms. We submit completely and convince them we're harmless. While they're busy taking our resources and treating us like primitives, we study everything they do. We learn their technology, find their weaknesses, and wait for the right moment. That could take years, Rodriguez protested. Decades. How many people will suffer while we're playing along? How many will die if we fail? Sarah shot back. This isn't about revenge or pride. It's about survival. If we're going to fight them, we need to be smart about it. The next morning, Earth's leaders announced their decision. Humanity would submit to the Galactic Council's authority. The surrender was broadcast worldwide, and Sarah watched people cry in the streets. Some protested, others celebrated that the world wouldn't end, but most just looked lost. Within days, the council ships began their work. Massive mining operations started in the mountains of Chile and Mongolia. Ocean platforms appeared overnight, processing seawater for minerals Earth scientists didn't even know existed. Cities were reorganized to make room for alien structures that hurt to look at directly. Sarah kept her head down and continued her research, now officially reassigned, to study human energy consumption patterns for the Council's resource allocation computers. In reality, she spent every spare moment analyzing the alien technology around her, taking measurements, recording energy signatures, and slowly beginning to understand how impossible things worked. The aliens treated humans exactly as she had hoped, like clever animals who might be useful but were no real threat. They left their equipment unguarded, discussed technical matters in front of human workers, and never bothered to encrypt their communications because who could possibly understand them? Sarah smiled grimly as she watched a Zephyrian engineer adjust a gravity manipulation device just 20 feet from her desk. The crystal being had no idea that the primitive human nearby was memorizing every gesture, every control setting, every energy fluctuation. The Council's greatest strength would become their weakness. They had forgotten that the most dangerous enemy is often the one you don't take seriously. 6 months under alien rule had changed Earth beyond recognition. The Rocky Mountains looked like broken teeth where Council mining ships had carved away entire peaks. The Amazon rainforest had been replaced with geometric food production facilities that stretched to the horizon. Humans lived in designated zones now, carefully planned communities that looked clean and efficient but felt like prisons. Sarah Chen stood in what used to be Central Park, now a landing pad for Council transport ships. She wore the gray uniform all human workers were required to wear, with a small device on her collar that tracked her location and monitored her vital signs. To any Council observer, she was just another human doing her assigned job of cataloging energy usage patterns. In reality, she was mapping every alien installation on Earth. The resistance had grown far beyond that first meeting in the subway tunnel. They called themselves the Prometheus Protocol, after the ancient Greek who stole fire from the gods. The name felt right. They were stealing something far more valuable than fire: knowledge. Dr. Patel had been assigned to work in the food production facilities, where he studied the molecular assembly devices that turned raw materials into nutrition paste. Colonel Rodriguez was part of a human security force that helped maintain order in the residential zones, giving him access to Council communication networks. Marcus Webb worked directly with Council computers, supposedly optimizing human resource allocation, but actually copying every file he could access. The beauty of their operation was its simplicity. The Council expected humans to be curious about alien technology, so questions and observations were natural. They expected humans to make mistakes, so equipment failures and accidents provided perfect cover for sabotage. Most importantly, they expected humans to be grateful for their advanced civilization, so eager cooperation was seen as proof of proper submission. Overseer Nalthek exemplified the Council's attitude toward humanity. The tall insectoid being treated humans the way a farmer might regard particularly intelligent livestock. He praised human workers who performed well, showed mild irritation at those who didn't, and never considered that any of them might pose a threat. Sarah had been in his presence dozens of times as part of her official duties. She had watched him operate Council devices, override security systems, and discuss confidential matters with other Council members, all while assuming the nearby humans understood nothing important. This morning's meeting was typical. Nalthek stood before a holographic display showing resource extraction rates across North America, while Sarah and 2 other humans recorded data on their tablets. Mining efficiency in Sector 7 has decreased by 3.2%. Nalthek reported to his superior via quantum communication link. Recommend increasing molecular disintegrator power by 15%. Sarah made careful notes. The molecular disintegrator was one of their most powerful mining tools, capable of breaking down solid rock at the atomic level. She had been studying its energy signatures for weeks, and now she knew exactly how much power it required for different settings. Any explanation for the efficiency loss? Came the reply through the communicator. Equipment malfunction, most likely. These primitive systems require constant maintenance. I have requisitioned replacement components. Sarah hid her smile. The equipment malfunction had been caused by microscopic quantities of iron filings introduced into the disintegrator's quantum field generators. It was sabotage so subtle that even detailed analysis would show only normal wear patterns. After the meeting, Sarah walked through the streets of New Manhattan, one of the redesigned human cities. The buildings were efficient but soulless, arranged in perfect grids that ignored the natural landscape. Humans moved between them like ants in a colony, following predetermined paths to predetermined destinations. But beneath the surface, resistance networks operated in ways the Council never suspected. Messages passed through ancient systems the aliens barely noticed. Graffiti that looked like random vandalism but contained coded information. Street musicians whose songs carried encrypted data, even children's games that served as dead drops for intelligence. Sarah's destination was an old coffee shop that had been converted into a distribution center for nutrition paste. In the basement, hidden behind fake walls and shielded by Faraday cages built from scavenged metal, the Prometheus Protocol had established its primary research facility. Dr. Patel was waiting for her with a grin on his face. I think we've had a breakthrough, he said, leading her to a workbench covered with alien components. Look at this. He showed her a small device that looked like a crystal wrapped in metal wire. This is a quantum field modulator from one of their mining platforms. I managed to acquire it during a maintenance cycle. Acquire? Sarah raised an eyebrow. The official term is accidentally damaged beyond repair during routine inspection, Marcus Webb said, emerging from behind a bank of computers. Nalthek was very understanding about human clumsiness. Sarah examined the device carefully. It was beautiful and complex, far beyond current human technology but not incomprehensible. Have you figured out how it works? Better than that, Patel replied. I think we can build one. He led her to another workbench where a crude replica of the device sat connected to a maze of human-built electronics. It took me 3 months to understand the basic principles, but the quantum field manipulation is actually similar to what we were working on before the invasion. We just never had materials that could handle the energy levels required. And now we do? Some of them. The basic field generators we can manufacture using modified particle accelerator components. The control systems we can build with quantum computers. The power sources, he shrugged. We'll have to steal those. Sarah felt excitement building in her chest. This was what they had been working toward. The ability to create their own versions of Council technology. What can it do? Marcus answered from his computer station. According to the data we've collected, these modulators are used in their shield systems, their weapons, their faster-than-light drives, even their artificial gravity. Master this technology and we master the foundation of their entire civilization. There's more, Patel added. I've been analyzing the quantum frequencies they use for everything from communication to matter transportation. They're all based on the same underlying principles, which means if we can disrupt one system, we can potentially disrupt all of them, Sarah finished. The implications were staggering. How long before we can test this? We need more components first. And we need to be very careful about testing. If they detect unusual quantum signatures, I'll handle the acquisition, Colonel Rodriguez said, joining the conversation. My security teams have legitimate access to most council facilities. A few more accidents and maintenance errors should give us what we need. Sarah nodded. What about the bigger picture? Are we ready to move beyond sabotage? Marcus pulled up a three-dimensional map of Earth on his largest screen. Red dots marked council installations, blue dots showed resistance cells, and yellow lines indicated communication networks. We have active cells in every major city and most minor ones. Our people are embedded in council operations across 6 continents. We've been gradually degrading their efficiency for months, and they still think it's just normal equipment wear. The question is whether we're ready for the next phase, Rodriguez said seriously. Once we start using actual alien technology against them, there's no going back. They'll know we're not the helpless primitives they thought we were. Sarah looked around the room at her fellow conspirators. 6 months ago, they had been researchers and military officers from different countries, different backgrounds, different loyalties. The Council's invasion had forged them into something new. Humans who refused to accept submission as their species' destiny. How many of their installations have we penetrated? She asked. On Earth? About 70%, Marcus replied. We have people in their mining operations, their food production facilities, their communication hubs, even their orbital platforms. And off Earth? That's where it gets interesting. He switched the display to show the solar system. Their faster-than-light communication network connects every council facility in the galaxy. If we can hack into it, Sarah felt a chill of possibility, we could reach their installations on other worlds. Not just reach them, Patel said quietly. If our quantum field modulator works the way I think it does, we could affect them. Disrupt their operations, steal their data, maybe even turn their own systems against them. The Council has been in charge of this galaxy for thousands of years, Rodriguez added. They're not used to fighting wars anymore. They're administrators, not warriors. They've gotten soft. Sarah made her decision. Then it's time to remind them what war looks like. How long do you need to build a working prototype? 2 weeks for the modulator. Another month to develop delivery systems. And then, Marcus smiled grimly, then we find out if stealing fire from the gods was worth the risk of getting burned. Outside, Council ships continued their systematic harvesting of Earth's resources, their crews confident in their technological superiority and human docility. The first successful test of human-built alien technology happened in an abandoned coal mine in West Virginia. Sarah Chen stood 2 miles underground, surrounded by rock that would shield their quantum signatures from Council sensors, watching Dr. Patel make final adjustments to their prototype field modulator. The device didn't look like much. A crystal core surrounded by copper coils and connected to a power supply built from salvaged Council components. But the readings on their instruments showed it was generating the same quantum field patterns they had observed in alien equipment. Power levels stable, Marcus Webb reported from his monitoring station. Quantum coherence holding at 93%. Energy signature matches Council parameters, added Dr. Kim from Seoul, who had joined them 2 months ago with intelligence about Council operations in Asia. If this works, their sensors should read it as legitimate Council technology. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her. In the 18 months since the invasion, the Prometheus Protocol had grown from a handful of desperate scientists to a global network of thousands. Resistance cells operated on every continent in every major city, even aboard Council orbital stations where human workers had been recruited to the cause. But this was different. This was the moment they stopped being saboteurs and became something the galaxy had never seen. A primitive species wielding advanced technology. Begin the test, Sarah ordered. Patel activated the device. The crystal core began to glow with inner light and the air around it seemed to shimmer. Instruments throughout the facility registered the quantum field expanding outward, interacting with the rock around them at the subatomic level. It's working, Patel breathed. The field is stable and controllable. We're actually doing this. The implications were staggering. The quantum field modulator was the foundation of Council technology. With it, they could create shields that deflected energy weapons, gravity manipulators that could move massive objects, and communication systems that worked faster than light. More importantly, they could create weapons that the Council would never see coming. Phase 2, Sarah announced. The team had spent months developing what they called hybrid technology, devices that combined human engineering with Council science. Where the aliens relied on elegant, efficient solutions, humans had learned to be adaptable and resourceful. Their versions were cruder but often more versatile. Marcus demonstrated the first hybrid weapon, a projectile accelerator that used quantum fields to achieve velocities that conventional physics said were impossible. We've tested it on asteroids, he explained, loading a simple steel rod into the device. The projectile phases through normal matter until impact, when the quantum field collapses and delivers all its kinetic energy at once. The steel rod vanished with a sound like tearing silk. 3 seconds later, their instruments detected the impact signature from a target satellite they had positioned in orbit. Penetration depth complete, Kim reported with satisfaction. The satellite's debris field suggests total structural failure, Sarah nodded grimly. Council shields were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles. They had never encountered anything that could phase through solid matter. "Show me the communication device," she said. Dr. Reeves from Australia unveiled their quantum communication array, built into what looked like an ordinary shipping container. "We've been testing it for weeks," she explained. "It can tap into the Council's faster-than-light network without triggering their security protocols. More importantly, it can inject our own signals into their system. Range. Theoretically unlimited. The Council network spans the entire galaxy. If we can access it here, we can potentially reach any Council facility anywhere." Sarah felt a chill of possibility. "Show me what we've learned about their other installations." The briefing that followed revealed the scope of Council operations beyond Earth. They controlled 12 star systems directly, with administrative stations and 43 others. Their military operated from 7 major fleet bases, while their resource extraction operations spanned hundreds of worlds. "The beautiful thing," Marcus explained, "is that they're completely dependent on automated systems. Their technology is so advanced that most operations run themselves with minimal organic oversight. Meaning if we can hack their network, we can potentially affect their operations across the galaxy simultaneously." Dr. Patel had been studying the tactical implications. "They're spread thin," he said, highlighting the map. "Their entire military consists of maybe 1,000 ships, and most of those are automated mining vessels with basic weapons. They haven't fought a real war in centuries. How many combat-capable ships? Perhaps 50, scattered across 7 bases. Against a unified galaxy, that would be sufficient. Against one primitive world," he shrugged. "They never imagined they would need more." Colonel Rodriguez, who had been coordinating with resistance cells worldwide, added his perspective. "Our people have identified critical vulnerabilities in every Council installation on Earth. Power plants, communication hubs, orbital elevators, shield generators. We could cripple their entire operation here in a matter of hours. But that would just bring reinforcements," Sarah pointed out. "Not if those reinforcements never receive the call for help," Marcus said with a grin. "And not if they're dealing with their own problems." Sarah looked around the room at the faces of people who had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. Scientists who had reverse-engineered impossible technology, soldiers who had learned to fight enemies with centuries of technological advantage, ordinary humans who had refused to accept subjugation as humanity's fate. "Present the plan," she said. Marcus activated the holographic display, showing Earth and the surrounding star systems. Operation Prometheus has 3 phases. Phase 1. Simultaneous strikes against Council installations on Earth using quantum phase weapons to penetrate their defenses. The goal is to disable their ability to communicate with their fleet and request reinforcements. The display showed red targeting indicators appearing over every major Council facility on the planet. Phase 2. Network infiltration. While they're dealing with the attacks on Earth, we use our quantum communication array to inject viruses into their galaxy-wide network. The viruses are designed to look like routine system updates, so they'll spread automatically to every Council facility. "What do the viruses do?" Dr. Kim asked. "Initially, nothing. They'll hide in the Council systems for weeks or months, gathering intelligence and mapping network architecture. When we activate them, they'll give us administrative control over Council technology across the galaxy. Sarah felt her heart racing. And Phase 3? Negotiation from a position of strength, Rodriguez answered. Once we control their infrastructure, we dictate terms. No more resource extraction, no more human subjugation. Earth becomes an equal member of galactic civilization, or their entire technological network collapses. The plan was audacious beyond anything attempted in human history. They were proposing to challenge a galactic empire using stolen technology and improvised weapons. But as Sarah looked at the data, she realized they had advantages the Council couldn't comprehend. Humans had spent millennia fighting each other, developing strategies and tactics in conflicts across every environment imaginable. They understood deception, misdirection, and asymmetric warfare. The Council, for all their technological superiority, had grown complacent during centuries of unchallenged dominance. Timeline? She asked. Our manufacturing facilities are producing quantum weapons as fast as possible, Patel reported. We'll have enough equipment for the Earth strikes within 6 weeks. The network infiltration can begin immediately. Personnel? Every resistance cell worldwide is ready, Rodriguez confirmed. We have approximately 50,000 active members, with another 200,000 in support roles. More importantly, we have people inside Council operations who can sabotage their defenses from within. Sarah made her decision. Begin Phase 2 immediately. Start injecting the viruses into their network. I want our people to have as much intelligence as possible before we reveal ourselves. And Phase 1? 6 weeks. That gives us time to position equipment and coordinate with resistance cells globally. She paused, considering the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Send a message to every cell leader. Operation Prometheus begins in 6 weeks. After that, there's no going back. As the meeting broke up and team members returned to their various assignments, Sarah remained in the underground facility, staring at the quantum field modulator that had started it all. In 6 weeks, they would find out if human determination and ingenuity could overcome technological superiority. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had accepted subjugation. They were about to discover that humans were never more dangerous than when they had nothing left to lose. Above ground, Council ships continued their methodical harvesting of Earth's resources, their crews unaware that deep beneath them, the primitives they had dismissed were preparing to challenge the very foundations of galactic civilization. The countdown to war had begun. The attack began at exactly 12 UTC on a Tuesday that would be remembered as Liberation Day. Sarah Chen stood in the Prometheus Protocol's primary command center, watching as resistance cells across Earth initiated the largest coordinated military operation in human history. On the main display, red indicators marked Council installations around the globe, mining operations in the Andes, food production facilities in former agricultural regions, orbital elevator terminals in equatorial cities, and communication hubs that connected Earth to the galactic network. For the past 2 years, these sites had symbolized human subjugation. In the next 6 hours, they would become symbols of human defiance. All cells report ready, Colonel Rodriguez announced from his tactical station. Phase weapons charged and targeting confirmed. Network infiltration complete, Marcus Webb added. Our viruses are now embedded in Council systems across 47 star systems. They're dormant but ready for activation on your command. Sarah took a deep breath. Begin Operation Prometheus. The first strikes were almost invisible. Quantum phase projectiles materialized inside Council installations, bypassing shields and armor as if they didn't exist. Only when the projectiles reached their targets did they become solid, releasing their kinetic energy with devastating effect. On the tactical display, Sarah watched the Siberian mining complex go dark as phase-accelerated charges destroyed its central power plant. The orbital elevator in Ecuador collapsed as its quantum anchor points were severed. Communication hubs across 6 continents fell silent as their quantum relay systems were reduced to exotic particles. But the most satisfying target was Overseer, Nalthek's administrative complex in former Manhattan. Sarah had personally calculated the targeting solution for the shot that punched through 15 floors of alien architecture and reduced the insectoid being's office to superheated plasma. Primary targets neutralized, Rodriguez reported with grim satisfaction. Council response appears confused and uncoordinated. That was exactly what they had hoped for. The Council's command structure relied heavily on centralized control and automated systems. Without their communication networks, their response to the attacks would be delayed and disorganized. Orbital platforms? Sarah asked. Resistance teams aboard Council stations report successful sabotage operations, Dr. Kim confirmed from her intelligence station. Shield generators offline, weapons systems disabled, and navigation controls destroyed. Several stations are already falling toward atmospheric re-entry. Sarah allowed herself a moment of fierce pride. The humans working aboard those orbital stations had lived for 2 years as servants and slaves, all while secretly preparing for this moment. Their success was as much a victory of human spirit as human technology. Fleet movement? She asked. 3 Council ships departed their lunar base approximately 18 minutes ago, reported Dr. Reeves, monitoring deep space sensors. Current trajectory suggests they're heading for Earth's orbital space. Time to intercept? Approximately 4 hours, Sarah nodded. They had expected this response. The Council's automated defense protocols would dispatch the nearest available ships to investigate the loss of communication with Earth. But those ships were designed for intimidation and resource protection, not actual combat against a technologically sophisticated enemy. Activate the orbital defense platforms, she ordered. Hidden in asteroid belts and behind lunar mountains, human-built weapons platforms powered up for the first time. They had been constructed in secret over the past year, using quantum technology reverse-engineered from Council equipment. Their weapons were crude compared to alien standards, but they had one critical advantage. The Council had never seen anything like them. The approaching Council ships detected the platforms moments before the attack began. Sarah watched their emergency transmissions on the intercepted communication channels, heard the confusion and growing alarm in the aliens' voices as they realized the primitive humans had somehow acquired advanced technology. The battle was brief and decisive. Phase weapons punched through Council shields. Gravity manipulators crushed their hulls and quantum disruptors overloaded their power systems. Within minutes, 3 of the galaxy's most advanced warships had been reduced to drifting debris. Council fleet destroyed, Rodriguez announced. No survivors detected. Sarah felt no satisfaction at the deaths. The Council crews had been following orders, protecting what they believed was their legitimate territory. But humanity's survival required demonstrating that Earth was no longer defenseless. Galactic response? She asked Marcus. Here's where it gets interesting, he replied, pulling up communication intercepts from across the galaxy. News of the Earth uprising is spreading through the Council network, but their response is confused. The intercepted messages revealed the scope of the Council's miscalculation. For centuries, they had operated under the assumption that primitive species either submitted completely or were destroyed. The concept of a successful revolt was so foreign to their thinking that many Council administrators refused to believe the initial reports. Admiral Kexmore at the Zephyrian Fleet Base is requesting clarification, Marcus continued. He thinks the reports from Earth are communication errors or equipment malfunctions. How long before they realize the truth? Based on their standard protocols, probably 6 to 8 hours. They'll send investigation teams to confirm the reports, then convene emergency sessions to decide on a response. Sarah smiled grimly. By then, it won't matter. Activate the network viruses. Across the galaxy, dormant computer programs suddenly came to life in Council systems. They had been designed to mimic routine software updates, spreading automatically through the interconnected network that managed galactic civilization. Now they revealed their true purpose. On Earth's command center displays, status reports began flowing in from Council installations light years away. Mining operations on Kepler 442b went offline as their automated systems received conflicting commands. The administrative station at Wolf 359 lost life support control when its environmental computers began executing human-written code. Fleet-based communication arrays started broadcasting random signals as their quantum networks were hijacked. It's working, Marcus reported with amazement. We have administrative access to Council systems in 37 star systems and counting. Their entire infrastructure is beginning to respond to our commands. The scope of their success was almost incomprehensible. In a single day, humanity had gone from subjugated primitives to controllers of galactic civilization's technological foundation. But Sarah knew their victory was far from complete. Council military response? She asked. Admiral Kexmore has finally acknowledged that Earth is in open rebellion, Dr. Kim reported. He's dispatched 3 planetary assault groups toward the Sol system. Estimated arrival time 72 hours. Sarah studied the tactical display showing the approaching fleets. 15 heavy cruisers, each capable of reducing a planet's surface to molten rock. Even with their captured technology, Earth couldn't survive a direct assault from that much firepower. Options? She asked her staff. We could target their ships with the network viruses, Marcus suggested, if we can gain control of their navigation system. Too risky, Rodriguez interrupted. Military vessels probably have isolated computer networks. We might get 1 or 2 ships, but not the entire fleet. Sarah considered their alternatives. They had achieved more in one day than any rebellion in galactic history. But ultimate victory required something beyond military action. What about negotiation? Dr. Reeves suggested. We've demonstrated that we're not helpless primitives anymore. Maybe they'll be willing to talk. The Council doesn't negotiate with rebellious primitives, Kim replied. Their standard protocol is complete extermination followed by planetary sterilization. Sarah made her decision. Then we changed the game entirely. Marcus, how much of the galactic infrastructure do we control now? Approximately 60% and growing. Life support, transportation, communication, resource processing. Most of the systems that keep galactic civilization running. And if those systems shut down? Marcus paled as he understood her implication. Billions of beings across dozens of worlds would lose life support, food production, transportation, medical care. It would be the collapse of galactic civilization. Exactly. Sarah turned to address her entire staff. Send a message to the Council High Command. Tell them we want to negotiate. If they refuse or if their fleets continue toward Earth, we shut down every system under our control. Dr. Kim struggled with the magnitude of the proposal. That's holding the entire galaxy hostage. Yes, it is, Sarah replied calmly. The Council has ruled through superior technology for centuries. Now we control that technology. They can destroy Earth, but only at the cost of watching their entire civilization collapse. The message was transmitted through the Council's own communication network, reaching the High Command on their capital world of Zephyros Prime within minutes. The response came back almost immediately, a demand for unconditional surrender and a promise of swift extermination for the rebellious primitives. They don't believe we'll do it, Rodriguez observed. They think we're bluffing. The first Galactic Congress in over 1,000 years convened on the neutral world of Haven's Rest, a small planet in unclaimed space between Council territories. Sarah Chen walked into the Great Assembly Hall wearing a simple black suit instead of the ceremonial robes favored by other delegates. She carried no weapons, no symbols of authority, just a small quantum communicator that connected her to human-controlled systems across the galaxy. The hall itself was magnificent, built from crystalline materials that seemed to capture and amplify light. Representatives from 12 major species sat in a great circle, their forms as diverse as the stars themselves. The crystalline Zephyrians reflected rainbow patterns across the walls, while the massive Corvani delegates cast shadows that seemed to move independently. The insectoid Vrex clicked and chittered in their complex language, and the energy beings of the Luxari flickered between visible and invisible states. At the center of the circle sat High Arbiter Zexnal, the ancient Zephyrian who had led the Council for 3 centuries. His crystalline form was larger and more complex than the other Zephyrians, covered in intricate patterns that spoke of vast age and accumulated authority. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the crystal walls like a song. We gather here in response to unprecedented events, he began, his words translated instantly into dozens of languages. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species has successfully challenged Council authority. The beings from the world called Earth now control significant portions of our technological infrastructure. A ripple of movement went through the assembled delegates. Some showed what might have been fear, others curiosity, and a few displayed emotions Sarah couldn't identify. The humans claim to desire negotiation, Zexnal continued, but they hold our entire civilization hostage to ensure their demands are heard. This assembly must decide how to respond to such unprecedented audacity. Sarah stood when recognized to speak. Around her, alien senses focused on the small figure who had somehow challenged the masters of the galaxy. Honored delegates, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustics. 18 months ago, your ships came to Earth and gave humanity a choice: submit or be destroyed. We chose submission because we believed we had no alternative. We were wrong. She activated her communicator, and holographic displays appeared around the hall showing the current status of galactic infrastructure. Thousands of systems showed human control, from life support networks to interstellar communication arrays. We don't hold your civilization hostage out of malice, Sarah continued. We do it because it's the only way to ensure you'll listen to what we have to say. For too long, the Council has ruled through fear and superior technology. Today, we propose a different approach. Admiral Kexmore, the Zephyrian military commander, rose from his position. His crystalline form was darker than the High Arbiters, shot through with veins of what looked like liquid metal. You speak of alternatives while your kind sabotages our systems and murders our personnel. This is not negotiation. This is terrorism. Is it? Sarah asked calmly. When your ships came to Earth, you destroyed our space station to demonstrate your power. You disabled our defenses and demanded our submission. How is our response different except in scale? A new voice entered the discussion, this one belonging to Delegate Thurk of the Corvani. The massive bear-like being spoke in deep rumbling tones. The human raises an interesting point. We have maintained order through strength for centuries, but perhaps we have become too accustomed to seeing strength as our exclusive domain. The Vrex delegate, Hive Queen Zithkar, clicked her mandibles in what Sarah had learned was agreement. The Hive observes that adaptation is necessary for survival. These humans have adapted remarkably quickly to challenges we believed insurmountable. High Arbiter Zexanal's form brightened with what Sarah recognized as irritation. They are primitives who stumbled upon our technology through theft and sabotage. They cannot be allowed to dictate terms to civilizations that mastered the stars before their species developed language. Can't we? Sarah asked, activating another function on her communicator. Dr. Webb, please demonstrate our current capabilities. In the command center back on Earth, Marcus Webb initiated a carefully planned demonstration. Across the galaxy, human-controlled systems began executing complex operations. Mining platforms precisely extracted rare materials. Transportation networks rerouted traffic with perfect efficiency, and communication arrays enhanced signal quality between distant worlds. We're not just capable of shutting down your infrastructure, Sarah explained to the watching delegates. We can improve it. Human engineers have identified thousands of inefficiencies in Council systems, optimization opportunities that your automated processes missed. She gestured to the displays, which now showed productivity improvements across multiple sectors. The mining operation on Kepler 442b is now producing 30% more refined materials with the same energy input. The transportation hub at Wolf 359 is handling 40% more traffic without delays. The communication network you're using right now is operating at 97% efficiency, instead of its previous 84%. Delegate Vash of the Luxari, her energy form flickering between frequencies, spoke in harmonics that the translators rendered as wonder. How is this possible? Our systems were designed by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. That's exactly the problem, Sarah replied. They were designed by civilizations that had never faced real challenges. You've been in control for so long that you stopped innovating, stopped looking for better solutions. Humans have spent our entire history fighting against impossible odds, finding ways to do more with less. She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. We're not asking to replace the Council. We're offering to join it as equals, to bring human innovation and determination to galactic civilization. Imagine what we could accomplish together. Admiral Kexmore's form darkened further. Preposterous. They are a primitive species that achieved interstellar capability through theft. They cannot be trusted with advanced technology. Can't we? Sarah smiled. Admiral, what is the current status of your fleet? The military commander hesitated, which was answer enough. Sarah continued, 3 hours ago we gained access to your ship's navigation systems. We could have sent them into the nearest star, but instead we upgraded their quantum drives. Your vessels are now capable of faster-than-light travel at speeds 20% higher than previous maximums. The hall erupted in surprised sounds from various species. Even the High Arbiter's crystalline form flickered with what looked like uncertainty. This is our proposal, Sarah announced, her voice carrying over the commotion. Earth becomes a full member of the Galactic Council, with voting rights and representation equal to any other member world. In exchange, we share our innovations and improvements with all Council species. We help you build a stronger, more efficient civilization. And if we refuse? Zexanal asked. Sarah's expression became grave. Then we shut down every system under our control and return to Earth. Your civilization will collapse, billions will die, and the galaxy will descend into chaos. Eventually you might rebuild, but it would take centuries. And during that time, humans will continue to innovate, to grow stronger, to spread beyond Earth. She let that threat hang in the air before offering hope. But why choose destruction when we could choose cooperation? We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to help it reach its full potential. Delegate Thurk spoke again, his deep voice thoughtful. The Corvani have long memories. We remember the wars before the Council, the chaos that reigned when species fought for dominance. Perhaps it is time for a new approach. Hive Queen Zithkar clicked agreement. The Hive calculates that human innovations could increase galactic productivity by an average of 37%. Such improvements benefit all species. One by one, the delegates began to voice their positions. Some supported immediate integration of human technology and perspectives. Others demanded gradual implementation with careful oversight. A few called for complete rejection of human demands, but they were increasingly outnumbered. High Arbiter Zexnal listened to the debate for several hours before calling for formal voting. The process was complex, involving not just the major species but representatives from dozens of minor worlds and colonies. When the votes were tallied, the result was decisive. The Galactic Council would be reformed to include Earth as a full member, with humans granted equal status and representation. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and awe as she realized what they had accomplished. In less than 2 years, humanity had gone from a subjugated species to equal partners in galactic civilization. 6 months later, Sarah stood in her new office aboard the orbital station that served as the Council's headquarters. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from dozens of worlds coming and going, carrying trade goods, diplomatic messages, and collaborative research projects. Earth had become the diplomatic center of the new galactic order, chosen specifically because of its location and the human talent for negotiation and problem-solving. Former enemies now worked together on projects that would benefit all species.